And let's bring out Xholiwe.
Before I start my story, I would just like to give a major shout out to single mothers. I have a heart and a love for single mothers because I was raised by one. She plays a big part in my story, which is going to be about my education. So, by profession, my mom was a secretary and she was a hustling entrepreneur. So, it came to a point where she was a strong pillar in my life, and it was not a choice for her to be a single mother, but my dad passed away when I was 3, and that left her to fend for not just me, but my like her aging parents and extended family. But her main concern was providing a lovely daughter with a good education. So it started very early on in my younger stages, where she would always call me, "You're brilliant, you're gonna do great things," and I probably would be like, yeah, sure, but at like every 5 to 7 year old, you know, you have that dream of saying, you're going to be a doctor, your profession is a doctor or a lawyer. So my mom used this to her advantage, and, you know, would have this game that she, you know, the doctor game. So she'll call, when she's not feeling good, she'll call out for me, and, you know, she'll say, "Dr. Xholiwe, come check my temperature." And, you know, I'll run there as a kid, and it was so much fun to do. And it was a fun game to play as a kid, and we were soon gonna find out that I was not gonna be a doctor. But so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my education, which is my story. It was, how do I go from this? Okay, so my education story, I look back now and I realize how blessed I was to have the opportunities that I had with my education. I went to good schools that provided me with a great education. And I went to great schools that I was involved in sports and extracurricular activities like theater and language, and you can best believe that my mom was the loudest cheering me, even when I had the smallest role to play in a play, but she was the loudest. And it came to a point where you'd realize that, I would realize that these schools were not cheap, especially for a single mother. And you know, it would take a toll on her, and it would always be hard to have things happen. But it was at a point where, like I said, she was a hustling entrepreneur, so she sold handbags, clothes, and purses for women. So she was a crazy lady. She made her way to my school, in my primary school. So in Zambia, where I'm from Zambia, the southern part of Africa. Primary school goes from 1 to 7, but towards the end of 4th grade to 7th grade, I was in a place where I felt immortal because my mom found a way to market her stuff to my teachers. She convinced these female teachers to buy her purses, and she convinced the male teachers to say, "You know what, if you buy this for your wife, if you buy this for your girlfriend." So this, I got to a point where I felt immortal because, and it worked to my advantage because I was never kicked out of school. Maybe because they were scared they owed my mom money and they didn't want to keep me out of school. And or they just had a love for her because she had an amazing personality. And at that point, it got to me, it made me realize that she did so much sacrifices, because before her establishing this little small business that she had, it was not easy. I was constantly kicked out of school because of unpaid school fees. I was happy as a kid. Like, who wouldn't be happy to go back home? So I would be happy, but she would get very weary about it, and, you know, she would try to, you know, borrow from Peter to pay Paul so I could get in school. And, you know, in a couple weeks or so, I would get back in school because that's what she wanted for me. So moving forward, it was at a point where, you know, I realized that because of her sacrifices, I had to do good in school. So I was keeping up with my grades. I was very competitive. I was competing with the guys and wanting to beat every person if I could, and it paid off eventually. So we write this nationwide exam in the 7th grade where I'm from. And so my mom was the one, she was freaking out more than anybody. I was not even freaking as much as she was. So she gets me a private tutor, and this is one of the teachers she sells stuff to, and she gets the tutor at a discounted rate. So I have a tutor, I write my exam, and I do very well. And She's super excited. I was accepted to one of the prestigious schools, a Catholic boarding school for girls, and I was excited. I got in, but the most thing I was excited about is beating the guy that I was always trying to beat in school, and I was like, I beat him and I came top, so that was my thing. But so at 13, that was my first time being away from home. I was in a boarding school, and it was a lot of me learning me, you know, discovering me. I was learning how to make decisions on my own, budgeting my food and my money and everything. So it came to a point where my mom would only visit me once a month. That's all she was allowed to do, visit me once a month. And I had to make sure I had my food and my money. And so I did good, but my trunk was always full because she always, you know, do go above and beyond. Sometimes it would leave her with nothing or little, but as long as I was doing okay, she was happy. So it came to a point where, like I said, it was me discovering myself in secondary school, which is 8 to 9. So at that point of discovering myself, I was starting to know what I dislike, and I definitely dislike math and science. So at that point, I don't think I was going to be a doctor, but for my mom, she believed I was going to be a doctor, so she continued calling me Dr. Xholiwe, even when my results were showing that I'm not going to be a doctor. So it came to a point where I was like I said, self-discovery at that point, and my school was very competitive. Our motto was study to shine. You can imagine that these girls were studying 24/7, and they were stopping at nothing and shining, so they did all they could. And as for me, I was the leader of the playful team. So you could imagine I was there, you know, instead of spending more time studying, I was playing, you know, having fun. But that's part of my personality as well. But my grades started to show, and I did so bad one term, and I cried, and I felt so bad, and my mom was disappointed. And so I said, I can't do this. She's sacrificing so much for me. I went back to remembering why I'm doing this, why I'm working hard in school. So I learned to balance my time with my playful friends and, you know, have enough time to study. So by the time that nationwide exam that came in the 9th grade came up, I was at a place where I was like, okay, I'm confident. I wrote my exam and I did really good, but not as good as the girls that were studying 24/7. So I was 17 points away to be accepted back to that prestigious boarding school I was attending, and you could have imagined that I was devastated. I felt like a failure. I was crying my eyes out, and my mom was the usual supporter, you know, my biggest cheerleader, saying, you know what, we got this, we'll find you another school, don't worry about it. And you know what, she put that in me. And before I would start looking for another school, the school that I was with called us back and said, hey, we've decided to get more people, and so your girl can come back. You should have seen the joy on my mom's face. You're going back to your school, and I was happy because my best friend is there, so we got to get back in school and everything. And this time I was like, I'm gonna finish strong. So I'm gonna finish my high school strong, which high school from where I'm from in Zambia is 10 to 12. So I finished my 12th grade, I wrote my final exam, and I did very well, and I was accepted to the top-ranked university in Zambia, which is the University of Zambia, and I was accepted to study economics. Oh, you should have been there when we got the results. There was drumming, there was joy, there was tears, there was dancing in our little apartment. It just brought so much joy to get those good results. And it was, for me, it was a gift to her, because in 2011, I graduated 2011. For me, it was a gift to her because 2009, she battled cancer. So it was my giving back to her and saying, you know what, it was tough for both of us, but you know what, here's a good thing for us. So that was then. So I graduated 2012. We have a mandatory gap year in where I'm from. So that was my gap year. But then 2012 was another tough time in my life. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. So my fighting mother, the cancer came back, and my fighting mother couldn't fight anymore. And she died September 11th of 2012. You can imagine it was tough for me. But I know that she would have wanted me to keep going. So with everything just coming around and everything happening, my aunt was working on my adoption to move to the US. She's been in the US like longer. So it's my mom's older sister. She was working on adoption for me to come to the US. So everything was finalized February 2013, and I moved to the US, Indiana. Go Hoosiers. And I moved to Indiana February 2013, and I quickly got my transcript translated, and just saying it was a 4.0 GPA. So I was accepted to the Indiana University, and I went in there undecided. I was like, I don't even know what I want to do, but the challenges that came with, you know, a new school system, a different culture, that's another story. Maybe I'll tell you guys some other time. But that made me decide to study international relations. Just I was intrigued by different culture. And that's where I am today. And it's been an amazing journey. I graduated 2017, and I dedicated my degree to my dearest mother because of the many sacrifices she made. And I work with Rotary International now in Evanston, and I can hear her voice sometimes saying, "You make me so proud. I told you were gonna do great things," and those serious conversations where she says, "When I die, you need to be educated because you need to something is to give. You have to provide for yourself." But I couldn't have had it any other way. She was my pillar. She was my best friend, and I am definitely grateful for the woman that helped me get through and have a good education. And I'm here. So thank you.